There are moments in everyone's life when words can be more dangerous than silence. Moments when our words can lead to conflict, the collapse of a relationship, or even the loss of our reputation. It is at times like these that Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of wisdom and self-control, offers us a powerful tool: silence. But when exactly is it worth remaining silent? How do we distinguish between situations in which words can be helpful and those in which they can be destructive? In this video, we'll explore 10 key situations where silence can be the most powerful and effective tool to help us maintain harmony, achieve wisdom, and find inner strength. Get ready for important discoveries and practical tips to help us become true masters of our emotions. Let's begin this exciting journey together. Situation number 1. When you feel angry or irritated. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt an uncontrollable urge to vent your anger on someone? Maybe it was a co-worker who didn't complete a task, a family member who didn't listen to your advice, or a stranger who overtook you on the road. Whatever the reason, we've all been in similar situations, feeling angry and ready to explode. But what if there was a better way to handle these situations? A way that not only saves us from regret and shame, but also helps us grow as individuals. A simple argument can very often escalate into a full-blown brawl, and before we know it, the situation spirals out of control. But what is really going on at that moment? Is it the other person's fault, or is it our own reaction to the situation? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." We know when we feel anger or irritation, our emotions take over and we react impulsively. We say things we don't want to, do things we regret later, and often the situation gets worse. But what if we stopped for a moment to take a deep breath and choose a different response? What if we learned to be silent when we feel anger or irritation? This is not about suppressing our emotions or locking them inside. It's about recognizing that our emotions are storms that will pass. And in the meantime, we can choose to observe them rather than letting them control us. So how can we apply this principle to our daily lives? It's pretty simple, even though it seems complicated. The next time you feel angry or irritated, take a deep breath, count to 10 and stop. Don't react impulsively. Think about the things you want to say and realize them. Won't you regret it later and berate yourself for your words? Ask yourself, is it really worth getting upset about? Remember, silence is not weakness. It's a strength. It's the ability to control our emotions, think clearly, and respond wisely. And when we practice this principle, we not only improve our relationships and communication skills, but we become better ourselves. Situation number 2. When you need time for reflection. In a world where everything moves at breakneck speed, where information flies at us from every direction, we often deprive ourselves of our most precious resource, time for reflection. We become prisoners of constant hustle and bustle, always ready to answer questions, participate in discussions, make choices without thinking about the consequences. But what happens when we don't give ourselves time for inner consideration, for pondering our actions? In the world of Stoicism, there is a simple and important rule: always be silent when you need time for reflection. This is not about going into total isolation and avoiding communication with others. In fact, it's about learning to control your reactions to external influences and giving yourself time for internal deliberation. Imagine you are in a situation where you are presented with a new project or faced with a difficult decision. At first glance, you may have an idea of what needs to be done, but are unsure. Instead of responding immediately, the Stoics teach us to take time to reflect, because in silence we find clarity. We can turn to our inner feelings and values to figure out what is really important to us and what decision fits our ideal. Seneca, one of the great Stoics, said, "Time is the most precious thing we have, and yet we often do not value it." When we are silent, we give ourselves the opportunity for awareness and insight. We stop being pawns in the game of life, reacting to every move of others, and become active participants, making thoughtful and balanced decisions. And this needs to be applied not only to situations at work. Imagine being in the heart of a conflict or being criticized. Naturally, we want to react immediately, to express our point of view. But in that moment, we should quiet our emotions, focus on our thoughts, and open ourselves to new possibilities for resolving the conflict or overcoming the criticism. Epictetus said, "Silence is one of the greatest virtues, for it promotes self-development." And in these words lies a profound truth. When we become silent, we begin to hear ourselves. We turn to our conscience, our values, our wisdom, which enables us to recognize the situation and find the right path for ourselves. Situation number 3. When you are not sure what to say. Surely, at least once we've all found ourselves in a situation where we felt like we needed to say something, but we didn't quite know what to say. Maybe it was a conversation with a friend, a meeting with a coworker, or a discussion with a family member. Whatever the reason, we've all been there, feeling like we need to contribute, but not knowing exactly what to contribute. But what's the harm in saying nothing? Why do we feel we need to fill the silence with words, even if we're not sure what to say? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "What matters is not what you say, but how you say it." And saying something just for the sake of saying something can often do more harm than good. Think about it. When we speak without thinking it through, we can say things we don't mean, inadvertently offend people, and create unnecessary conflict. But when we are confident in what we say, we can communicate more effectively and build stronger relationships. So, how can we apply this principle to our daily lives? The next time you don't know what to say, just pause and say nothing. Don't feel pressured to fill the silence with words. Don't be afraid to say, "I don't know what to say right now." As Marcus Aurelius said, "The obstacle to action promotes action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Don't let your uncertainty keep you from communicating effectively. Use it as an opportunity to think before you speak and choose your words more carefully. Situation number 4. When your words could hurt someone else. The great Stoic Epictetus said, "Silence is the best answer to foolish questions." This phrase reflects one of the important ideas of Stoicism, which is, always be silent when your words might hurt. In our hectic and noisy world, where words are easily spoken and their consequences are often unavoidable, the power of silence becomes increasingly valuable. Imagine a situation in which we find ourselves in a conversation with someone who voices criticism or displeasure. Our initial instincts might prompt us to retaliate, but the Stoics instruct us otherwise. They urge us to consider what our words might bring: hurt, offense, misunderstanding. At this point, silence becomes our greatest ally. The power of silence manifests itself not only in its defense of self, but also in its ability to settle conflicts. Rather than deepening contradictions with verbal clarification, the Stoics teach us to be wise and restrained. They understood that even the most heated disputes could be resolved without a single spoken word. What a powerful weapon not to speak when your words can only escalate the situation. As we immerse ourselves in our daily lives, we can find many examples where silence proves to be our powerful ally. Imagine witnessing gossip and slander. The Stoics advise us not to engage in this game, not to spread further words that can hurt and destroy relationships. Silence becomes our shield that protects us and preserves our virtue. The Stoics encouraged us to be aware and reflect on every word we speak. Sometimes the wisest response is to remain silent, because therein lies the power and depth of our inner world. So the next time the words are on the tip of your tongue, remember the power of silence. Remember that your words can be both a weapon and a medicine. Choose wisely when to speak and when to be silent. The greatest strength can be found in our ability to cause less pain by remaining silent. Know how to remain silent when your words may cause pain, and you will find that your wisdom and strength grow, and your connection with others becomes deeper and more meaningful. Situation number 5. When the situation calls for confidentiality. In a world where information is increasingly accessible and spreading at the speed of light, the ability to keep secrets and maintain confidentiality has become a value that sets us apart from the rest. The Stoics admonish us to always remain silent when the situation demands confidentiality, and in that silence we discover strength and wisdom. Imagine you are in a situation where you are entrusted with personal information. Perhaps it is a friend's secret, a business idea, or simply an observation that cannot be revealed. In such moments, we need to be steadfast in silence. We need to appreciate the trust that is shown to us and cherish it as our most precious treasure. Confidentiality is not only an obligation to others, but also an indicator of our own morality and trustworthiness. The great Stoic Epictetus said, "Seal in your soul what concerns others, and under no circumstances speak of it." This is a reminder that we must remain true to ourselves and our principles, even if the temptation to reveal secrets seems too strong. We live in the age of social media and instant messaging, where information spreads quickly and irreversibly. However, the Stoics would teach us to value moments of silence and delay before revealing something that could harm others. It is wisdom to be able to restrain ourselves and not give in to the temptation to share information immediately, especially if it could be harmful to someone else. Silence in such situations is not only an expression of our morality, but also a way to protect others from possible negative consequences. We must be compassionate and realize that even one wrong word can cause irreparable damage. Remember, our ability to maintain confidentiality becomes a key factor in trust and effective relationship building with others. But we must also remember the importance of maintaining our own privacy. In our world, where privacy is increasingly at risk of violation, the Stoics show us the way to preserve our own private sphere and intimacy. They teach us to be careful about what we reveal about ourselves and others, and help us set boundaries that protect our identity and dignity. Remember that in a world where information is valued above gold, the ability to keep silent and maintain privacy becomes our treasure. Situation number 6. When the other party is clearly not ready to listen. In a world where everyone is eager to speak their mind and be heard, the ability to stop and be silent becomes a difficult art. Imagine a situation where you are very passionate about getting your point across or resolving a conflict. Perhaps it is an argument with a loved one, a business negotiation, or a discussion of an important issue. However, we must be wise and patient, realizing that words can be useless or even harmful if the other party is not willing to listen to us. Silence in such situations does not mean weakness or indifference. On the contrary, it is an expression of our intelligence and emotional stability. We should listen and understand others first and foremost, before we speak. The famous Stoic Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 tongue, so that we listen twice as much as we speak." This is a reminder of the need to listen and be open to the thoughts and feelings of others. Silence can be a show of respect for the other party, They may be going through a difficult time or feeling emotionally disturbed. In such moments, our silence can be a support and comfort that is far more important than our words. Stoics teach us to be empathic and to realize that our presence can have a much greater impact than ranting. But sometimes we encounter people who are not willing to consider another point of view or hear arguments. In such cases, silence becomes our protective shield. The Stoics teach us to choose our battles and to realize that our time and energy can be better used in other areas of life. They remind us that we don't have to convince everyone and that some people may be beyond our reach. As we dive into everyday life, we can find many instances where silence and nonchalance play a crucial role. For example, in the business world, there are often situations where our ideas and suggestions may not be understood or appreciated. In such moments, we must remain patient and continue to work toward our goals despite possible unrecognition from others. Let's remember Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic, who said, "You don't need many words to tell the truth. Sometimes our actions and examples speak much louder than the most persuasive arguments." In a world where everyone is eager to speak up and be heard, we can stand out with true strength and wisdom by being able to be silent when necessary. Situation number 7. When you are in a situation where words can be used against you. There are times in everyone's life when words can become a weapon that can be used against us. In such situations, it is better to remain silent and wise, realizing that in silence lies our strength. Imagine a situation where you find yourself in a conflict or argument where your words can be distorted, twisted, or used against you. It could be a family quarrel, a business negotiation, or even accusations against you. In such moments, the Stoics will teach us to hold back and remain silent, realizing that our words can only make the situation worse and do us more harm than good. Silence in these situations is not a sign of weakness or retreat. It is a conscious choice to preserve one's inner harmony. Marcus Aurelius said, "Trust in yourself and refrain from saying anything when you see that it can be used against you." Silence in such situations can be a manifestation of our wisdom and self-control. It allows us to maintain clarity of thought and avoid disruption, which can lead to unwise actions or wrong decisions. We must be able to appreciate the moment and realize that our response must be deliberate and judicious, not instantaneous and emotional. Remember the story of Socrates, the philosophy teacher who silently accepted accusations and did not defend himself in court, demonstrating his wisdom and principles. He realized that his words could be used against him and chose to remain silent, rather than engage and argue with those who were unwilling to understand him. Silence can also be a show of our respect for the other party. Sometimes the people around us may be negative or not ready to engage in constructive discussion. In such cases, our silence can be in line with our values and principles, allowing others to show their autonomy and openness. We give them space to express their thoughts and emotions, even if they disagree with us. But sometimes in life, we also encounter people who deliberately distort our words or use them for their own benefit. In such moments, we must remain cautious and vigilant. We can choose to remain silent to prevent them from dragging us into their game. Epictetus, one of the prominent Stoics, said, "If someone wants to offend or humiliate you, remember that other people's words and actions are a manifestation of their own thoughts and character. Don't let it affect you. Keep your inner freedom." It is important to note that silence does not mean passivity or refusal to protect one's rights and interests. We are always entitled to our point of view and opinion. However, we also learn to choose the moment and the way to express our thoughts. A wise person knows when to be silent and when to speak out. Situation number 8. when someone is discussing and judging someone else. In our world full of conversation and communication, we sometimes find ourselves in situations where someone is gossiping and spreading negative rumors about other people. This can happen at work, on social media, or in conversation with our friends and family. At times like these, we need to be able to be silent and not participate in this harmful practice. When we find ourselves in a dialogue where someone is gossiping, negative and false statements about other people are spread around us. Perhaps our initial instincts push us to join the conversation to avoid standing out or out of curiosity. But it is important to remain silent and maintain our morals, realizing that participating in gossip is not only harmful to others, but also to ourselves. Silence in such situations is a manifestation of our wisdom and self-respect. As Seneca said, "The best way to protect yourself from the evil of others is to take no part in that evil." When we remain silent, we not only refuse to spread gossip, but we also maintain our purity of thought and soul. We do not allow negative emotions to invade our minds and poison our own lives. Silence in these situations also helps us to preserve our relationships and trust. As Epictetus taught, "Word is shadow, but deed is reality." When we remain silent, we not only do not spread gossip, we do not support it. We do not become complicit in constructing false perceptions about other people. We maintain the trust and respect of others because they see that we are not participating in this negative cycle. When we find ourselves in a situation where someone is starting to spread gossip, but we remain silent, we realize that your words can affect other people's attitudes and moods. As a result, we maintain good and honest relationships with others, and by our silence we show that we don't agree with the gossip mongers. So when we find ourselves in a dialogue where someone is spreading gossip, let's remember the power of silence. Let's not allow negativity and lies to creep into our lives. Situation number 9. When you face unfair criticism. In our lives, we sometimes face unfair criticism. Someone may judge us without sufficient knowledge, attributing negative qualities to us or accusing us of something we did not do. This can be vulnerable and cause us to want to justify or defend ourselves. But Stoicism will teach us the value of silence in such situations. Imagine yourself in a situation where you are being unfairly criticized. There are insults and false accusations flying around you. Our initial instincts may push us to respond, a great thirst to defend our honor and prove our innocence. Still, in such situations, it is better to remain silent and preserve our inner peace, realizing that the answer to injustice lies not in words, but in our actions and self-respect. When we remain silent in the face of unfair criticism, we not only prevent it from hurting us and our self-respect, but we also demonstrate our morality and wisdom. We choose the path of silence so that we don't get bogged down in endless arguments and excuses that won't change anything. Silence in these situations also helps us maintain our emotional balance and calm. As Epictetus taught, equanimity is the steadfastness of the inner peace of the soul. When we remain silent in the face of unfair criticism, we do not allow it to control our emotions and penetrate our minds. We maintain clarity of thought and the ability to make decisions without being influenced by external factors. We choose silence to prevent anger and irritation from taking over us and our behavior. We must realize that our silence does not make us guilty, but instead speaks to our strength and independence. By choosing silence, we know that truth and justice do not need to be proved to those who are not ready to hear. Situation number 10. When someone tries to drag you into an unnecessary dispute. In the hectic pace of our modern lives, we often find ourselves embroiled in a lot of unnecessary arguments. Someone may try to challenge us to a debate, argue about something, or just argue for the sake of arguing. It seems that many of us have already felt the consequences of engaging in fruitless arguments. Not only do they drain our time and energy, but they can also destroy our relationships with others. How often have we entered into arguments to prove a point, but ended up losing friends and experiencing only disappointment? The Stoics teach us not just to be silent, but to choose when and where to use our words. The wisdom lies in distinguishing the moments when our words can really make a difference from those when they will just lead to endless arguments and irritation. Imagine you are in a busy public place, such as a bus or train. Suddenly someone starts arguing loudly about a topic that is essentially irrelevant, trying to drag as many people as possible into the argument. At this point, we can choose to be stoic and silently pass by, keeping our composure and emotional equilibrium. After all, what will change if we get involved in this argument? Most likely nothing, except the loss of our energy and time. As Marcus Aurelius said, "External things in themselves have no power over us, but our mind turns them to good or to harm." It is our reason and self-control that can help us maintain our silent wisdom in situations where someone is trying to draw us into unnecessary arguments. Of course, this does not mean that we should always remain silent. Sometimes we must engage in dialogue to defend our principles or to help others. But the Stoics taught us to choose our battles with wisdom and patience. Silence becomes our weapon when we realize that arguing can only make things worse, and we won't change anything with our words. So let's take the lessons of Stoicism and learn to be silent when someone tries to draw us into an unnecessary argument. Our silence will speak volumes about our wisdom and self-control, and remember, a wise man keeps silent when a fool argues. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that the philosophy of Stoicism teaches us to value inner freedom higher than external goods. And one of the most important manifestations of this freedom is the ability to refrain from unnecessary words in time. After all, submission to emotions makes us slaves to circumstances, while true wisdom lies in the ability to control ourselves. Remember, sometimes silence is the most eloquent response. In a world full of noise and talk, learn to appreciate silence and the wisdom of silence. Following the principles of Stoicism, you will be able to find inner harmony and fortitude, which will help you overcome any hardships of life. Having mastered the art of silence, we can become true masters of our destiny. Thank you for watching. Leave comments under this video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos about Stoic wisdom. Continue to improve yourself, because only by gaining true power over ourselves can we truly control our destiny.